Good morning again. Hey, I can't figure out how to get this thing started and stopped without all that jostling and all that hand motion, so you just have to put up with that part of it. Hey, here we are again, talking about and using our past studies about apologetics and how we can know that this is real, this is all true, it's right. We've been talking about how we should live and what we should do with it. I've got a few just of things, and you guys have heard these before. This is kind of a reminder, and maybe some of it you haven't heard before, but a reminder of the way we're supposed to be as God's children. And so I just wanted to bring to your attention, and the first one you're going to know, you're going to remember it, and but I'm going to bring it to your attention again. All of us need to be reminded of these kind of things, and it's in Luke. I like the book of Luke. I like Luke real well. Call him Dr. Luke, you know. And I like him not because he's a doctor, because of who he is. Like Pete, like Dr. Pete. Oh, Dr. Pete. I don't respect him because he's a doctor. I mean, that's cool, but I respect him because of who he is. So here we are with Luke, Dr. Luke, and he starts talking in Luke, the 6th chapter, and starting in verse 27, he says this: "But I say to you that here, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who abuse you. To him that strikes you on the cheek, offer the other also. And from him who takes away your cloak, do not withhold your coat as well. Give to every one who begs from you, and of him who takes away your goods, do not ask them again." Here's the part to listen to, and you're going to remember this. This is where we're at. "And as you wish that men should do to you, do so to them." We remember that a lot like this. Do unto others as you would have them. See how that's a biblical thing. That was Luke's teaching here in Luke. He says, I want you guys to do to other people the way that you would want people to treat you. Look what he says further. "And if you love those who love you, so what? What credits that to you? For even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who do good to you, big deal. Even the sinners do that. And if you lend to those that you hope to receive from, make some gain off of it, so what? Big deal. What credits that? For even sinners lend to enemies, or sinners lend to sinners, and receive much again. But love your enemies, do good, lend, expecting nothing in return, and your reward will be great, and you will be sons of the Most High. For he, the Most High, is kind and to the ungrateful and to the selfish. Be merciful, even as your Father is merciful." So just a reminder this morning that you need to do to other people as you want them to treat you. So when you start getting harsh with people, you start being cranky, or maybe a little bit angry with people and saying things you shouldn't say, just remember you don't want people to treat you that way, so you don't need to be treating anybody else that way. And the reason is because God, the Most High, is merciful to us in the same way we should be merciful to other people. Just reminder, because we're kind of confined a little bit, and we have this virus thing going on. So sometimes our tempers get short, and we're not getting what we want, so we start acting in ways we shouldn't act. So just remember, you treat everybody else the way you want to be treated, and everybody will be cool. All right, I'm going to move on to Ephesians, the 5th chapter, starting in verse 15. And this is kind of hard to understand at first, but we're going to look at it just a little bit. It'll be a little bit clearer. In verse 15, he says, Ephesians 5:15, "Look carefully how you walk." Walk is the way that the Bible used to say the way your life goes, the way that you're conducting your life. He says, be careful how you do that. "Not as unwise men, but as wise men." Then he says this: "Making the most of your time, because the days are evil. Therefore do not be foolish, but understand what the will of the Lord is." What he's telling us is, don't be foolish with your time. You got time, you need to use it. Don't be wasting time. Use your time wisely, and so that and study so you'll know what the will of the Father is. When we don't get to do some of the things we want to do, like going out and playing ball and going off to friend's house and spending the night, because of this virus situation, we find ourselves with a little more time on our hands than we used to have, and we kind of wonder, well, what in the world should I do? I know, I'll play another video game. Mindless things. I know, there's nothing wrong with that. It just don't let that replace what you should be. You know, enjoy your video games, enjoy the activities of life that you need to enjoy, but don't take it to the extent where you're wasting your time. As you get older, like as I get older anyway, and you will someday too, and you'll remember back, you'll say, yeah, Mike told me that, but I wasn't listening. But listen to this, as you get older, you're kind of wishing you had a little more time and you hadn't wasted the time that you'd wasted in the past. So be careful and be very careful and not to waste that time, but do some reflecting on yourself and see what the will of God is for you, for that day even, and for your life. Okay, now this is a cool one. I like this one real well. I watch MASH too much, wasting my time. And in one of the episodes of MASH, there's a guy laying there in the bed. He's got all tubes running out of him and stuff. And he said to the chaplain there, he says, I need to talk to you. So, yeah, what is it? What is it? What do you want? He said, well, he said, when I was there in the foxhole and the bombs were coming in and the people were shooting and people were dying around me, he said, God, you get me out of this and I'll become a Catholic priest. And the chaplain tells him, he said, and he got you out of it. I said, yes, he did. But I don't want to be a Catholic priest. And so the chaplain tells him this. He said, well, I think God understands. He said, I think everybody that made their vows in times of fear, in times of distress, if they kept them, God wouldn't know what to do with all those people. Well, that's not what the Bible says. I want to read this part to you and draw a few conclusions, and then we'll be done. In Ecclesiastes, the 5th chapter, 7 verses. So I'm going to read all 7 of them. This is in, I think, the New American Version. I kind of like the way it words it a little bit. As you enter the house of God, keep your eyes open and your mouth shut. Don't be a fool who doesn't realize that mindless offerings to God are evil. And don't make rash promises to God, for he is in heaven and you are only on the earth. So let your words be few. Just as being too busy gives you nightmares, being a fool makes you a blabbermouth. So, when you make a promise to God, don't delay in following through with it, for God takes no pleasure in fools. Keep all the promises you make to him. It is better to say nothing than to promise something that you don't follow through on. In such cases, your mouth is making you sin. And don't defend yourself by telling people, the temple messenger, that the promise was a mistake. Some people say, oh, I was just joking. That would make God very angry, and he might wipe out everything you have achieved. Dreaming all the time instead of working is foolishness, and those who run in a flood of empty words. And there is ruin in people who are in a flood of empty words. Fear God instead. You better pay attention. You better not fear him like be afraid of him, except that is part of it, but fear him like respect him. Honor him enough that when you make a promise to him, you better do it. So, and here's the reason I say all these things. This is some guidelines in the Old Testament of what was recorded there for us of God's nature. He doesn't like people who make promises to him and then won't follow through with them. So here's what happens a lot of times. I hear this sometimes. God, if you'll give me a new job, a better job, a raise, I'll start doing this, that, or t'other. I'll start giving more. I'll start reading my Bible. I'll start whatever. And we make promises, foolish promises. Sometimes they're just vain words. And all of a sudden we're lavish with a gift. God grants us what we've asked for. And we go, yeah, but I don't want to read my Bible more. Well, I don't want to give anymore. And so sometimes we try to barter with God for his praise, for his graces to us, and we shouldn't be doing that. Now, if you do that, and you make a promise to God, oh God, I'll start reading my Bible every day if we just go out and resume our life like it was. Well, someday we may be resuming our life like it was, and now then you're going to be saying, uh-oh, I told God that I was going to read my Bible, but I don't want to read my Bible. Don't be doing that. Don't be doing that. Don't be making promises to God that don't intend to keep. And it says, do it quickly. Pay those debts quickly that those vows that you make. So be careful in the things you ask for in your prayers and what you kind of vows that you're making to God, because you better pay them off. It's better for you, the script we just read it, it's better for you not to say anything than to make some kind of a vow that you're not going to follow through on. So don't do that, but respect God instead, and respect Him enough to follow through. Now, it's not just God, although it is very important, and we skip that, we miss this sometime in the accounts of the Old Testament of what God's character is like. But also Jesus said, let your yes be yes, your no be no. Don't deviate from that. So if you say, yes, I'll do this, or you say, no, I won't do this, then you better make sure that's the right thing to do. And you make sure you do what your word says. Keep your word is what I'm saying. I remember one time there was a place on the garage my dad wanted me to paint. I didn't want to paint it. I didn't want to paint it at all. He said, go out there and paint that. He said, it's summertime, you're not doing anything. And of course, he was giving me a place to live and food to eat and taking care of my medical, He said, go out there and paint that spot on the garage. Okay, I will. He come home from work and I didn't paint it. He said, I thought you was going to paint that. I'm going to. He said, well, okay, get it done. Come back home the next day. You didn't paint that place. I said, I know. I told you I would. I'll do it. I'll do it. I didn't want to. So anyway, come on the next day. He said, when are you going to paint that spot on the garage? I said, I told you I would. And this is what I told him. And I thought I was going to get in trouble because I said, look, Dad, I gave you my word. And I'll never forget what he said. He looked at me and said, but your word doesn't mean anything. Oh, and he was right. My word didn't mean anything because I wasn't doing it. I wasn't following through with what I'd promised. So I went out and painted the garage. Not because because I wanted to do it anymore. It's because I respected my dad and wanted him to know that my word was worth something. And it hurt me that he would say my word wasn't worth anything. See, it's the same thing we've got going on now. You tell God, well, I'm going to be a good guy. I'm going to be a good gal. I'm going to quit living this way. I'm going to start living that way. If you'll do something for me, or if you'll do this, or whatever. And then all of a sudden we find our prayers have been answered, and so fear God, respect Him enough to carry through on those promises that you make. Okay? So be careful what you promise, and make sure that with those promises you're making, you intend to carry through with. All right, I hope we're to get together soon. I hope we're through with this social distances, at least in this case. That's how we can't come to worship, is what I'm trying to say. And so I hope we get together real soon. I really miss you guys. I'm anxious to get back together with you and hear all what's been going on and what you've been up to. But don't forget to study your Bibles, you guys. Read your Bibles and study them and see what God is trying to tell you through the scriptures you'll be reading. And try to understand some harder things of life about how to live the right kind of life. Don't forget to be praying. And like I said last week, get past the little lay me down to sleep. Now that's good. That's a good thought. Lay me down to sleep. Pray the Lord my soul again. That's good. That's a good thought. It's a good exercise. But don't hesitate to pour out your heart to Him and have a good relationship with Him and just see what He'll do for you. But if you're making Him promises, here's what He'd say. You tell Him, say, well, if you'll do this for me, I'll do that for you. And we used to do that as kids. At least I used to. If you'll do this, I'll be your best friend. Anyway, we used to try to barter with people to do things like that. So we tell God, if you'll do that, then I'll start doing something else, And I can just hear God saying, what if I send Jesus down to earth to die on the cross for you, and it won't cost, you don't have to do anything. It won't cost you anything. All you have to do is believe that He came and confess Him and put on His name in baptism and live like you should. That's all you got to do is just take advantage of it. So I think God's been very good to us in that aspect. So we need to return that to Him. Hey, hope to see you guys soon. Let me know what you're thinking, and take care of yourselves, and everybody live like you're supposed to at home as well as outside the house. See you later. Love you guys. Bye.